This is the third topic in our review before we start tackling some differential equations. And today's basic topic is short and sweet. We're going to use the distance formula to find the distance between 2 points in the plane. And so let me remind you what the distance formula is. The distance d is the square root of the difference of the x coordinates and the difference in the y coordinates. And I'm going to graph this briefly just so you can see kind of where this comes from. So this is our graph here. So let's say we have the distance between this point and this point. Okay. This point is x, and that's real small, I know, x1, y1. And this point is x2, y2. So what we're looking for is this distance d, and you may see off the bat that what we have here is a right triangle. And if this is a and this is b, we remember from Pythagoras that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. In this case, d squared, because that's the distance. But what is a? How do you find a? Well, if this coordinate is x2 and this coordinate is x1, a is x2 minus x1 squared. And then similarly, b, if we look at b, b is that coordinate y2, and this is y1. So to find b, and I'm sorry I can't align my equal signs and be all pretty here, but b is y2 minus y1, and that equals d squared. So to solve for d, we take the square root of both sides. So this becomes the square root plus or minus d is plus or minus the square root. Now, distance, this is the distance. Physically, distance can't be negative, so we just simply state that the distance is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And in a nutshell, this is Pythagorean's theorem. Okay, the distance formula is the Pythagorean theorem in quadratic, in the coordinate plane. Okay, so let's find the distance between, let's just make up some points here, 3, 4, and 6, 8. Yeah, why not? 3, 4, and 6, 8. Okay, so the distance is the square root of, now, does it matter which one is x2 or x1? No, just as long as if this is x2, this is y2. They have to start the same way. So if we subtract the exponents, so I'm going to start this way and subtract, that's going to be 6 minus 3 squared plus 8 minus 4 squared. So in other words, if you start here, when you subtract the y's, you better start here. Okay? That's important, because if you do that backwards, then you're going to have some funky signs going on here. Actually, I don't, well, I'm not want to get into it, but I just want to make sure that that's proper. Actually, it doesn't matter, but it does. Okay, so 6 minus 3 squared is 3 squared, plus 8 minus 4 squared is 4 squared. Take the square root, that's take the squares of those, so that's 3 squared is 9. Plus 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is the square root of 25. and the square root of 25 is 5. So the distance between these 2 points is 5. Let's look at a different example. How about the distance between -4, 7, and -3, -2. Okay, so it's when you get into these negatives, that's where the proper direction really plays its part. Okay. So the distance is the square root of, we're going to start with this guy here. It's going to be -3 minus -4 squared. Okay. -3 minus -4 squared. Plus, now if I started here, I better start here with this one just to be safe. -2 minus 7 squared. Okay. -3 minus -4 is +4. So -3 plus 4 is +1. -3 plus 4 is +1. So this is going to be 1 squared. And -2 minus 7 is -9. So this is plus -9 squared. Okay, let me do that again. -3. If I subtracting a negative is add, so this becomes 4 minus 3. It's +1. -2 minus 7 more is -9. So now we can do the squares. That's the easy part. So 1 squared is 1, and -9 squared is 81. And this becomes the square root of 82. Now, what do you do when you get there? You pull up your handy calculator and you find the approximation. Now, this is not always necessary, but if you're doing a real-world application, it would be most prudent to give them an approximation. So this would be 81 square root or 82 square root, which is approximately, and this is an approximation always when you put a square root in a decimal, 9.06 or 9.1. Okay, so the distance is approximately 9.1. And that is just about all there is to cover on the distance formula in the plane. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in the comments below. And this is y2 minus y1. Make sure that is. If you need help with tutoring, check us out on Facebook in the link below. And I offer tutoring at affordable rates in the comfort of your own home online. And I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next lecture.